Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Power is Now teleconference. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Later, we will conduct a question-and-answer session, and instructions will be given at that time. If anyone requires operator assistance during today's call, please press star then 0 on your touch-tone phone. As a reminder, today's call is being recorded. And now, your host of the Power is Now, Eric Frazier. Sir, you may begin.
Good morning and welcome to the Power is Now teleconference. The phrase, the power is now, suggests that we maximize our potential for success in business and life when we act on information and opportunities now. The present is our future because the future is only a reflection of past decisions to act now. And we are at our best and we maximize our success when we act now. That's what the Power is Now is all about, folks, acting on information now. My name is Eric Frazier, host of the Power is Now teleconference, and this is teleconference number 75. I'm amazed how quickly time is just going by, and I'm so blessed to meet just incredible people each and every week to bring to you, to talk about things that help you grow and expand your business. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. I am also the president of the Orange County Association of Real Estate Brokers, a chapter of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. This is the oldest minority trade association in the country, folks. You can go to the national website at nareb.com and our local website for the local chapter here in Orange County at ocareb.org, the Orange County Association of Real Estate Brokers. In fact, coming up on March 11th, please note your calendar, from 11 to 1:30 p.m., we're going to have the Director of REO from Wells Fargo, Jesse Tirado, and Paul Mousseau, VP of REO with LPS. They're going to be talking to us about the opportunities for REOs with LPS and Wells Fargo. So please check out ocareb.org, and also the state chapter, the California Association of Real Estate Brokers, careb.com. Great organizations doing great things for realtors and real estate professionals in Orange County and the state of California. I'm also the branch manager of Wells Fargo Home Mortgage North Orange County markets, and I tell you, I'm proud of very many things. I'm proud of the fact that I have been married for 29 years and have 4 incredible daughters who are all in real estate. I'm very proud of that, and I'm also very proud of who I work for. Wells Fargo Home Mortgage, folks, is the #1 lender in the nation. #1 across the board, whether it's government lending or conventional lending, we are #1, a market share of almost 25% market share. It's really incredible. Please consider using one of our team members on your next transaction. You can contact any member of our team at our team website, thedoitnowteam.com, thedoitnowteam.com. We call ourselves the Do It Now team because we work with a sense of urgency. We really do. In fact, we back it up with a close-on-time guarantee. It is an unprecedented commitment to closing your transaction on time. It doesn't exist with Chase or B of A or any of the competitors out there or mortgage bankers. No one has a close-on-time guarantee other than Wells Fargo Home Mortgage. And essentially, this is how it works. If Wells Fargo is at fault for not closing the transaction on time, we will write a check to your client for the full principal and interest payment. Now, folks, there's a lot of business happening right now, especially REOs, and with every single transaction, even on short sales and even on some regular sales, there's this per diem if you fall short of missing or you miss the close of escrow date. That can be significant. In addition, when a transaction doesn't close on time, the borrower may have additional expenses associated with their previous or their current residence, whether it be a lease or a rental or something of that nature. Well, most lenders just apologize and make a lot of excuses. Well, we will also apologize. In fact, we put it in writing, a letter of apology, and we write a check. We put our money where our mouth is, and we say we're going to close on time. And if you are a buyer's agent and you're at all concerned about a transaction not closing on time and your borrower being impacted, then you owe it to your client to tell them about the Wells Fargo Close on Time Guarantee. Contact one of our consultants and learn more about the program. Again, it is an unprecedented commitment to closing a transaction on time. The Power is Now teleconference is a series of teleconference meetings designed to empower our real estate agent partners to sell more homes, expand their business of buyers and sellers, and to be well informed about changes in lending, government programs, marketing strategies, anything that may affect your clients and your business. Please email or call me with questions or comments about the teleconference. You can reach me directly at 800-261-1634, extension 703, or contact one of our team members at the team website and let us know what you think about the teleconference. If you're listening to the teleconference for the first time, please get on our mailing list. Just drop me an email and say, add me to the list at eric.frazier@thepowerisnow.com. And if you are listening to this call for the first time and you're not going to be able to hang on for the entire length of the call, no problem. It's being recorded, and you can go to our website, thepowerisnow.com, and listen to this recorded teleconference. So I'm really excited about the teleconference today. On the phone is Desiree Patno, and she's the founder and president of the National Association of Women REO Brokerages. And she's also the CEO of Desiree Patno Enterprises. Today, our call is about women. 2011 is the year of the women, and no one better than Desiree, I believe, can really speak to this issue because she is a very successful woman in real estate. Let me share a little bit about her background. She is the owner of the industry-leading bi-coastal women-owned REO brokerage, Desiree Patno Enterprises, based in Southern California, and is also licensed in North Carolina. Desiree Patno Enterprises has achieved over 10 years of unparalleled service to major REO banks, financial institutions, and individual clients. Desiree's extensive resume reflects the resources and knowledge necessary to effectively manage high volumes of pre-foreclosure, short sales, and foreclosures, and over the last 10 years, leading publications such as Time Magazine and the Los Angeles Times has featured Desiree. In those same years, she has won in excess of 150 industry awards, founded the first major women-owned REO organization, and this year alone authors 6 featured articles reaching an audience of nearly 90,000 readers. At the helm of her business, Desiree has mastered every aspect of the REO property management process from cradle to grave. Desiree's expertise allows her to tailor each process to her client's unique and individual needs, allowing for performance timelines, cost effectiveness, and top net returns, resulting in a satisfied client base. Desiree's dedication to the industry is not limited to her business. She is also active in many professional organizations, most notably the National Association of Women REO Brokerage, which Desiree founded in 2009. A pinnacle achievement of Desiree's career, the National Association of REO Brokerages embraces the Women-Owned Business designation and is the first and only certifier of women-owned businesses in the distressed service industry. The organization has established a nonprofit community enhancement program to restore public spaces in areas facing an acute foreclosure crisis. Desiree presently resides in Irvine, California with her husband of 20 years, Jay, and their 4 sons, Joshua, Nathaniel, Aristotle, and Odysseus. Desiree considers herself a fanatic, NHL fan, Anaheim Ducks, and is an avid lover of animals and designer attire, and counts the empowerment of women in business as one of her greatest passions in life. And she can be reached at desiree.patno@nawrb.com. Also on the line is her right hand. His name is Cade Holman, Program Director. He's responsible for programs and alliance development for the association. Cade has been with NAWRB since April 2010. He received his bachelor's degree in public relations at St. Louis Webster University and went on to achieve his master's of art in international cooperation at Yonsei University in Seoul, South Korea. Cade is a history buff and enjoys traveling. He originally hails from Arkansas, Delta region, where he was raised on a catfish farm. Cade, I love catfish, especially on Fridays. Thank you both for being on the teleconference today. I really appreciate you, Desiree and Kate, taking time out of your crazy schedule. I know you're very busy. In fact, Desiree, I see you all the time at all the conferences. So you're traveling a lot, speaking a lot, and writing a lot. In fact, I was really impressed with the article you wrote recently for Housing Wire, December 10th. On Dodd-Frank could be boost for women business owners. A great article, folks. In fact, you can go to the Facebook website. It's www.facebook.com/powersnow, or just to the website, thepowersnow.com, and we have posted up those articles from Housing Wire and there's another from the Scotsman Guide. There's a number of great articles that Desiree has written that would be helpful for you to understand really what we're talking about today. So Desiree, again, thank you for being on the call today, and I'm really looking forward to diving into our subject, women, this being the year of women for 2011.
Well, thank you very much for having Kate and us. We're really happy to be here. And as far as going, I just wanted to say that we've been really passionate about what we're doing here, about the women business owners and the default services and what we can do to make a stance of getting the community efforts and all on a national level to, as women business owners together, get together and go in uniformity of going in volume, independently of one person, one entity versus all the group, and embody everyone together within the women business owners. And that was the whole core. We'd love to be on your host today, and thank you very much.
Well, the pleasure is mine. Desiree, I want to kind of establish, your credibility for the audience today. Why are you able really to speak to this subject? Why is this, Desiree Patno feels that 2011 is a year of women in business. You have a passion for women in the real estate business, and this began very early on, didn't it, for you? You've been in the business how long now?
I've been in business for 20 years. I got my first REO in 1991. So we've been doing this, and this has probably been 95% of my business for the entire 20 years I've been in real estate. And what happened is that there's been a lot of various bills that have been out there in legislation that have been on the forefront over in D.C. and in the Hills for 10 years that we've been trying to do something about women's organization and what can happen. And when I first started 20 years ago, it was pretty much a man's world. We had the different groups and all that stuff, and when you went into the office, it was we were the supporting cast. And now over all the years in REOs, the old cliche, do you want to get out of your car in your high heels and go into a house that's been foreclosed on and the emergency situation, things like that? Can women really do it? Do they have the backbone? Do they have the wherewithal to do it? And from that time point, I really feel that women have proven, I'm one of them, and there's hundreds like me around the nation, that we'd like to get together and prove our point that, yes, we can do it, we have the wherewithal, we know what we can do, and make a stance. And as far as answering a direct question about why women is empowerment of this year is because of the new rules that have just been enforced, that have been going on for 10 years, that have been in the Congress and finally got approved with the SBA. It's been 10 years in the making. They finally got it approved in October of last year, and this month they're going to start enforcing those rules with the women's set-asides and things like that. So that's where our improvements going with the women's organization.
Well, we're going to dive into these changes in our bullet points, but tell us a little bit about your business. So you have an office in Irvine, but I know you have multiple offices, so you give us a little bit of idea about your business, your operation.
I have an office the corporate offices in Irvine, California. We also have an office in Moreno Valley, which obviously is very popular with the Inland Empire. We have an office in Victorville in California, which is the high desert, and we also have an office in Chapel Hill, which is next to Raleigh in North Carolina.
So how many employees do you currently have? I mean, you're managing a lot with 4 different offices, and give us an idea of the kind of volume you do as an REO broker.
I have currently 30 employees that are on staff, and we currently average anywhere to 500 to 600 properties a year between the 4 different offices, depending on which state. Obviously, California being the most popular state versus then out of North Carolina.
Well, that's really impressive. And You started off by yourself. I mean, you've always been Desiree Patno, making it happen, building this empire that you've built today.
Yes, I've always been it. Well, I started out, like I said, in 1991 as an agent, and then I got my broker's license, and Desiree Patno Enterprises got incorporated in 1997. Mm-hmm. And it's always been, I'm a very much control freak. Those people know me in the industry. I mean, you have to be, as one person I heard recently say, which is very true, I don't need anyone else to help me fail. It's one of these things that you have to progress of how good you are and what you can do. And so what we've done is we just set up 16 different departments in DPE, and so we can run it, manage it. And one of the things I decided to do a couple of years ago was I knew this time that REOs were going to be around a long time. I saw what was going on in the industry. I knew where the direction was going. And so that's the whole purpose for the organization of NAWRB, was to set up to strictly help women business owners in the industry. And you only can be a women business owner because after an agent with Coldwell Banker for 15 years, I never got the recognition of being a woman in the industry because I worked for Big Blue.
Wow. Wow, that's really impressive. 16 departments, 30 employees, 500 transactions a year. You are the real deal. And I think that if you are a female listening to this call right now, you have a role model, looks like, in Desiree Patno, that you too can also achieve this level of success. In fact, Desiree, speak to that just for a moment. I mean, you've achieved a lot, and it took you a while, but what is the opportunity for other women right now to maybe do what you've done or maybe even surpass you?
Absolutely. I consider myself average, to be honest. I don't consider myself the elite. I think there's so much room and improvement. That's so much growth that can be out there. As far as other women and women business owners, the most important thing we can stress as an organization to every woman who's listening is that if you're only an agent now and you don't own your own business, please. There's so much opportunity out there as a woman business owner now that is incredible. And if you know the game, you can play the game. So those who put it off, like I did, to get my broker's license for many, many years. Your contracts are signed, especially if you're a real estate broker. The contracts are signed with a brokerage. They're not signed as you, an individual agent. And if you have differences of your company policy, how you want to do, how you want to span, it's very, very important that you go out and get your broker's license and start your own company. One of the pitfalls, as people say, is that my E&O insurance, the legal hassles, the HR, all those kind of things. Yes, we still have those, and yes, there is an involvement there. But if you really get to know your business, you really understand what you're doing, you abide by the rules and regulations, and you're on top of your game, you can be very, very much more successful than you are today as owning your own brokerage than being an agent. Because some of the issues you have are internally because, well, my boss wants to do this way, the brokerage wants to do this way. And the biggest problem you have right now is that without being that designation of being a women business owner, you're not going to get the benefit of you being a woman in the industry doing what you do today.
Wow. Well, Desiree, we could do a call just on being a woman-owned business owner, or really just how to start and run an REO brokerage. You are doing it at a very high level. You've been very successful at it, and you are politically in tune with what's happening for women and minorities to further expand their businesses. So let's jump right into that, actually. Our first bullet is the financial reform and offices of women and minorities. Let's speak to that as part of, why 2011 is the year of the woman.
Okay, the Dodd-Frank bill was passed back in July of last year and had 6 months to actually take off and be started within the various agencies. And what you have is you have 20 different agencies within the different offices that are 20 different offices within the agencies that were set up within the federal government, whether that be the FDIC, the Treasury, and all the other different compartments. And what happens is that they are actually setting up these offices that are specific to minority and women inclusion. And what that means is that their goal is to make sure that the contracts that they go out and award, that they have women business owners and what they have in those are actually being done by women per se, what they're actually being awarded for these contracts. So before, if you were given a contract and a woman, and you said, I'm going to use all these women, minorities, and different departments, we'll call it, or different designations in there, that there was no follow-through. Now they're making sure, like a check and balance, we'll call it, a follow-through that's there to make sure that if we say a woman's going to be doing the job, a woman business owner, they are, in fact, using that woman business owner. So this year, they're supposed to be having those those offices set up within the agencies to actually to make sure that those targets are implemented, and we have teeth to what they're doing within the Dodd-Frank bill.
Right. So, I want to interject just a little bit of the language from the actual provision in Dodd-Frank.
Okay.
And it's fairly wide in scope. It says that these institutions, to the maximum extent possible, should aim for the fair inclusion and utilization of minorities and women and minority-owned and women-owned businesses in all business and activities of the agency at all levels, including in procurement, insurance, and all types of contracts. That casts a very wide net. The most important part of that language, though, is that it is to the maximum extent possible. In a little bit, Desiree is going to get into some of those numbers. You're going to see a wide range of success through different federal agencies. Some are only using 3% women-owned companies. Some are all the way up to 8 or 20%. So the targets are going to vary wildly. In terms of the implementation of those offices, we have been monitoring the sites of the institutions that are supposed to be creating these OMWIs, Office of Minority and Women Inclusion. FDIC was the first to put out a notice that they had met the January deadline. And one thing that you're going to see pretty consistently is that these federal institutions already have some sort of diversity office in place. The name will change to Office of Minority and Women Inclusion, and those tasks will be rolled into this office, though the new office will have a broader scope. So in FDIC's case, they came out with a press statement on February 17th saying that they have transferred the existing responsibilities of the former Office of Diversity and Economic Opportunity into the new OMWI. They expect a smooth transition and a ramp-up in staff. They will be hiring a new senior deputy director, and they will be implementing an OMWI steering committee. That will be tasked with promoting coordination and awareness of the OMWI's responsibilities, et cetera. So that will give readers, if you're looking at the Housing Wire article, either on the Powers Now website or on NARB.com, that'll give you a brief update on where it's been. That article was published a month before the deadline.
So this is a mandate then by law for every federal agency to have a significant or to have a percentage of women and minorities included in all employment, insurance, any type of contracts issued by the federal government. And the language that is somewhat ambiguous is to the maximum extent possible. So that's where the potential problem could be.
Correct. Absolutely. Now, those institutions, it's going to affect somewhere between 20 and 30, depending on how you count. The one that makes the difference is the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has a upper level that is a board of governors, and then the Fed Reserve has 13 regional offices. So some news reports are counting that as one institution. Others are counting that as 14 different institutions. Each of the branches will have an Office of Minority and Women Inclusion. The others that are pertinent to people on this call would be the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC, Department of the Treasury, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which oversees HUD, and Office of the National Credit Union, Comptroller of the Currency. Now, and everyone knows this, the most glaring exception to the entire financial reform bill is, of course, Fannie and Freddie. So anything we're talking about here on this call will not impact their business or the way that they're reaching out to minorities and women.
Now, there was a recent article in which announced that the Obama administration is looking at dismantling Fannie and Freddie and pulling them all under the federal government.
Right. And on this call today, we're not really prepared to talk about Fannie and Freddie, mostly because that is a developing issue. About a week ago, the Treasury and HUD and the Obama administration came out with proposals on how to reform the GSEs, or the government-sponsored enterprises, which are Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie.
Right.
And how that turns out over the next 12 months to, it could be 4 or 5 years, that's anyone's guess.
Right.
And I, myself, nor Desiree, we're not prepared to put forward any idea on how that's going to end up looking.
Well, I tell you, this change, though, affects a lot of agencies that can have a real impact to real estate brokers and agents right now. I mean, you're talking every bank, every credit union, HUD, all these agencies are connected directly or indirectly under these federal agencies. And so can you speak in kind of real terms what that means to the REO, female REO agent right now?
Well, the most important thing is that the female REO, it's not female REO agents, it's female women business owners. The
Okay.
distinction has to be very clear that you, going back to my history, 15 years I was an REO agent for Coldwell Banker, broker or not. As long as I hang my license with another brokerage company, you do not give the privilege of being a woman business owner under what we're talking about today as far as the SBA, as far as set-asides being set up for the federal government, as far as distinguishing that you work for a women business owner unless that brokerage is already certified as a women business owner. Now they are asking for operations of being, the day-to-day operations being performed by women, and that needs to be also at 51%. But as far as the topic of is that, and the fallacy here is that, yes, some people, some agencies, some applications, they'll ask you, are you a woman doing the work? But the core of the conversation of today's industry, are you a women business owner? And that's where the fallacy that we've got to make sure it's clear in the industry. You have to own your own business and be qualified, set up at the 51% owned and operating women-owned business.
Wow. So just being a broker associate is not good enough. You've got to own it. You got to own at least the majority of it. Wow.
You are certifying the brokerage. Remember, as a real estate agent, you cannot operate or do any sales in industry as an agent. You have to hang your license with the brokerage. Mm-hmm. So you have to be, that brokerage has to be women certified as a women-owned business. And that's what everyone's got to make sure it's clear. Now, if you're in the state of California and you have a brokerage license and you hang your brokerage license with another brokerage, you could still independently have your brokerage, you as a broker have two different companies. One, work for, let's say, ABC company, and B, work for Desiree Patno, being Desiree Patno person, and do it that way. And Desiree Patno as a person could be certified as a women-owned company and have two different tax returns, if you see where I'm going with this conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wonder if many broker associates know that unless it's somehow mandated through some contract with the broker they're working for that they can't establish another company, they're free to do that in the state of California to license and establish as many companies as they choose, right?
Right. They can hang their license whoever they want, and still, if that property obviously goes with the brokerage. So if they have one contract with, A Street, it goes with their personal, and then B Street goes with the company that they're currently employed with. Correct. I mean, obviously, you'd have to have an exceptional relationship. You'd have to know where everything's at. Your E&Os, all that kind of stuff would be set up separately. But that's where the empowerment of what we're trying to say here is, be your own boss, be your own brokerage. Why work for someone else and let them take all the glory and what they are? Because their name is their company versus your company.
Wow.
And Eric, I want to go back to your question about what does this mean to REO brokers on the ground.
Okay.
I think it has several implications for those women. One is that this provision alone, plus some of the other bullets that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, this tells people that the government has its eye on this issue. And we know that often with topics like this, the federal government sets the tone for what the private sector is going to do in a lot of cases. The federal government, if the federal government is pushing this, it may give private sector companies an idea as to what they should be doing. I'm not talking about innovation, but I am talking about that if the government is pushing who they control to do these things, then it could set the tone for a wider group of organizations who these women seek to do business with. The other thing is that means there is someone internally who has their eye on this issue at each of these institutions. And women-owned companies are encouraged to contact these offices directly. And that's one of the things that we are told again and again as we go to D.C. and as we speak to these people face-to-face. That is that when companies, small business owners, when they talk to them directly and voice their concerns to these people, it trickles up. The federal government, of course, is a huge institution, but that does not mean that it is an institution that cannot be approached, that they cannot be spoken to. That's what these offices are for, and that's what these taxpayer dollars go to. And so we encourage these women to look at their websites, use our website, and a lot of this information is on the powersnow.com as well. You can find this contact information. We can help you do that, and you can speak directly to these people, ask those questions. You know, that's really what we're about and encouraging people to do.
That's the whole purpose of NAWRB, is to be a voice in D.C. We have some coalitions with some very prominent, like WIPP, Women Impacting Public Policy in D.C., that we're trying to make a stance for the financial reform, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what we can bring to the table. Hence the organization being 100% only women-owned businesses in the industry and operated by women in the industry, such that when we go and we talk to these people, that every membership of the organization is strictly a women business owner. No deviation from that. It's exclusive.
Well, so this is really unprecedented, but I mean, some would argue that the federal government has always had diversity initiatives for women and minorities, but has it been all, real just theory and not really substantive in terms of its impact for minorities and women? I mean, are we now going to really see a real effort to include minorities and women in federal contracts and opportunities?
Well, that's the whole purpose of the Dodd-Frank for the Section 342, is to see that there's actually some enforcement of going to it, what kind of teeth did it have into it. Plus, you got to remember, you got the SBA that just got awarded that took over 10 years to get it done. Now that it actually is a law that they're going to do it, it's now enforcing the law to actually have precedence to get it done, to actually legislation and go with it. So, yes, I personally believe with the media that's out there, I believe with the technology that we have out there, I believe we have more stance with more women being in the different congressional seats out there in the House and the Senate. I believe that there's just women getting together, hence, again, the organization to combine the voices of the women business owners to say we here collectively can do this and make a difference. And the idea is that right now, it used to be, the target that they have out there for the women set aside is at 5% for small businesses. Some of the organizations Kate already alluded to, we're only using less than 3%, and some are using 8%. And the core is, which is really nice, is that some of the federal agencies are now trying to outdo each other, that they realize that, if the working woman business owner is 40% of the landscape or marketplace out there, why are we only targeting 5%? Why shouldn't we be targeting more like 25, 35% to be more in the fair field about there? So you have these organizations and agencies going at I want 8, I did 8.2, I did 8.3. Like Homeland Security, they keep going up every single year, and they do nothing but boast about what they're doing, how they're doing it. and they're now up at 8.3, 8.5 from where they were at like at 7.2, let's say 3 years ago. So every single year they want to make their target higher and higher and higher and higher.
I agree, and I want to second something that Desiree said, and talk a little bit more about what you said, Eric. There are always going to be critics, and what you said is absolutely correct. There have been initiatives from the federal government to include women and minorities. However, going back to the text of this provision, there are some teeth in this provision that have not been in existence or open to these institutions beforehand. If the OMWI can determine that a contractor is not meeting its needs or fairly including women and minorities, the director of the Office in Minority and Women Inclusion can recommend that that contract be terminated and re-awarded to another contractor who does meet those needs.
Wow.
So that is very, very important, and it's a key differentiator that sets this development apart from previous initiatives that have come out of the federal government. The other thing I want to say is just talk about a few numbers. In the last decade, women have been starting companies at twice the rate as men, particularly in real estate. Women represent over 40% of the entry-level participants of this industry. And for the ladies that are on the call, I want to say directly to you, you've got to hold these people accountable. Based on those numbers, women business owners are a force to be reckoned with. If you speak up, if you contact these institutions, ask questions, and talk about it, then they will respond. And that's the value of associations like NAWRB. For the woman business owner who feels like she doesn't have enough time, and we all understand that, I work with Desiree closely, and I see what her schedule is. And sometimes it's hard for me to get 5 minutes of her time because running a business and a family, it's 3 full-time jobs right there. And so a lot of these women, you can join associations like NAWRB and let them be the voice for you. And this is not just women. This is minorities. This is any kind of trade association. You see this pattern over and over again. But that's the core value of an association like NAWRB, is we can be that grouping, that representative voice in our nation's capital that is doing exactly what I just said, reminding them of the numbers. When women start businesses, how often they do it, the rate they're doing it at, and the numbers that they represent in these industries. You've got to repeat that message again and again and again so that they remember what is written down and the obligations that they have to these women-owned companies. That's what we're here to do.
Wow. Well, I think it's a great service. We all know that knowledge is power. And I thought it was interesting in the Housing Wire article that companies within a 50-mile radius of the White House earn nearly $1 of every $3 in federal contracts given to small firms. That's so, I guess, out of sight, out of mind, because we're not in Washington and we're not, where it's right in our face and we're hearing and seeing all these opportunities coming out. We're not participating in it. And so you need to plug into an organization that's going to be your eyes and ears and keep you aware of opportunities to take advantage of because you are a woman or a minority or whatever the case might be.
Exactly. That's the whole reason that these reach-out programs that the government has here, once or twice a year, they could come out here trying to get you to come to D.C. because if you don't honestly have an office in D.C., the odds of you getting a contract out of D.C., as you just quoted the numbers, is very slim. It takes a lot of work to get those contracts. I mean, the average contract out of the federal government is 2 years. And the reason people have to remember that is that the 2-year contract is that they have to trust you, know you, and like you. Because if they don't have all those 3 avenues, their job is hinging on whether they award you a major contract, whether they're going to look good in the end of their cycle because they gave you a contract. So it's a huge commitment. If they can sit there and talk to you and brief to you and have lunch with you and day-to-day operations, what's doing, and see that you're visible and you're there and you're not out and 3,000 miles away, they're going to trust you more because you're there. So that repeated visits of seeing them on a regular basis, email and talking to them face-to-face, it's so valuable in what gets done. And that's why women need to speak up, and business owners need to get together and make it happen.
Well, the minority trade associations have been doing just that now for a number of years, going to Washington. In fact, there's a multicultural event happening in Washington in March where the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, the Asian American Real Estate Association, and the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, the Realtors, are all coming together to lobby Washington. And that's part of what you're talking about. You got to get in their face, and you got to ask for what you want, right?
Right. Two of our board members will be present there, Patricia DeSantos and Melva Wagner. That is a conference that it plays heavily on our radar, and so I couldn't agree with you more on the importance of conferences like that.
Well, let's talk about some of the new contracting programs for women-owned real estate companies. So the offices have been set up. Watchdogs are being put in place. What are some of the new contracting programs?
Well, the SBA, the Small Business Administration, the one we talked about previously, they're out there right now, and they're going to be starting putting what they call set-asides out there for exclusively for women business owner contracts. And that's what the 2011 is about, not only about the Dodd-Frank, about the SBA being invoked now and having some meat to go with it and make a difference. So with actual set-asides being set out, like you have small business set-asides, you have now women business set-asides. That's what's going to be huge to make that out there. So as far as, but to play the game, you got to know the game. And part of that thing is that you have to have all your ducks in a row as far as women's certification. And that's something I think we should talk about here.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Women's certification, like minority certification, small business certification, HUD zone certification, service disabled certification, and service certification are very valuable. So you've got to make a determination on where you fit into that role. Obviously, this call is about women business owners, but at the same time, do you fall into the minority business owner in addition to the women business owner? Do you fall into the service disabled veteran and a women business owner, or the service veteran and a women business owner? So the core of what we're trying to get here is that you have so many different avenues out there. You have the women business owner we're going to focus on today is that you want to make sure there's so many different departments and different certifications that are out there, and they're not applicable across the board. You've got the private sector, you've got the government sector, you've got the industry, you've got utility companies, you've got city, county, and state. So without going too crazy about all the different certifications out there, let's talk about mainly the federal government. It is totally free for every single women business owner to become certified. You have to get your CCR, your DUNS, and your ORCA. You don't have to supply any documentation, but you have to register it, and you have to go through the process. I heard another article that I thought was very interesting. I'd like everyone to listen real quick. 90% of all the brokerage owner companies that are out there that want REO business, that get registered with the federal government, that get registered wherever they go, 90% of them, I was told, are registered wrong, not completely correct. They might have the wrong phone numbers, wrong email address, wrong licensing, right?
Missing documents,
whatever. And they're not going to follow up because they don't have the manpower to make sure that your registration within that organization is correct, or entity, or whatever you're trying to get business. So it's very, very, very important that you make sure everything's correct. For example, for the federal government, to be a woman-owned business, to get registered, you've got to do your CCR and DUNS. But 90% of them forget to get registered with ORCA to put your profile on there to show what you can do and a description of who you are.
Now Desiree, let me stop you for a second there, because you may be using some terms that people are just not familiar with. Like, explain DUN and CCNR and ORCA.
Okay, that's the process. Actually, that's the order you want to go into. DUNS is the Data Universal Numbering System. It is a number that is issued to your business, so just an identification number. It doesn't take very long to get. You can register for it, and I think get it within 48 hours usually.
And where do you go to get that?
You can get it, maybe DUNS.gov. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. Just Google DUNS, and it will take you directly to that. that DUNS number, once you receive that, and again, this is free because it's with the federal government, you then take that number and you put it in the CCR, which is the Central Contracting Registry. This site is something that business owners can think of as the catalog that the federal government uses to shop from when they need to source lighting fixtures, janitorial services, or any business that supplies a service or a product that the federal government needs. Your company has got to be in the CCR. You identify your company in the CCR by your DUNS number. The third thing you want to do is your ORCA, which is the Online Registration and Certification Administration or something. And the ORCA, what you want to put into that are all of your certifications and registrations. It is a built-out profile of your company. Are you woman-owned certified? Are you registered with other federal institutions? Those three components are the ones that will best paint the picture of what your company looks like to the government. Now, talking about certification, if you certify with the federal government, companies, I want to make a really broad statement that is it's the most basic element of minority, women, veteran disabled certification. You have got to get that certification dependent on who you want to do business with. If you want to pursue federal contracts, you need to certify with the federal government. If you want to if you want to pursue contracts with the city of Los Angeles, you must use the city of Los Angeles' certification. The state of California does not offer a women-owned business certification. However, some cities and counties do. If you want to do business with your city, your county, your state, you need to pursue women-owned business certification with those entities. If, however, you want to target private financial institutions or federally regulated housing institutions, you should use either a third-party certifier or go through the federal government. If you want to target just, say, the big four banks that you want to list REOs for, you need a third-party industry-specific certification. That's your best route. That's what NAWRB offers. Our certification checks three things. One, that it is 51% greater or greater owned on paper by a woman. That same company is run by a woman in its day-to-day operations. So the first two criteria is that it's woman ownership on paper, and two, that it's woman ownership in practice. Three, we're industry specific, so we are also looking at industry indicators because we want, when people look at NAWRB woman-owned business certification, we want them to understand three things. It's woman-owned on paper, it's woman-run in practice, and that it is a quality, experienced REO brokerage.
Wow, that's
okay, so I hope that'll give you a good idea.
So then a third-party certifier, that's what NAWRB is, a third-party certifier. What are some other third-party certifiers?
You got WeBank and WBOC.
Okay.
WBENC and WeBank. Now, not all, just for clarification, not all companies, entities accept certification from all different organizations and things out there. So you've got to be very specific on what you're doing and what you're doing it for. Now, most will accept another checkbox in whatever you're logging for, saying, do you have certification? If it's not listed here, who do you have certification with? The most important thing that people are looking for is some way to document their files. Because remember, the reason they're asking for the certification is a purpose to say that when someone comes and audits their files, that they can say this is who they went through and this is what they gave us. You know, it's a paper trail. Like you being a lender, you got to source the paper trail, and that's the course of what they're doing here. It's sourcing where you got certified, and that's the problem with the federal government certification process right now. Is it's self-certifying, self-policing. How do I know that Eric Frazier is a guy, I personally met you, versus than you being a woman, and you saying you're a woman, and you own your business, and you register that your company as a women-owned business with the federal government? There's no follow-through.
So that's actually happening, right?
Oh. I'm not going to comment that.
Quite a bit. If we jump to the article that we also that's also listed on the website, the one from Scotsman Guide called "Ask Yourself, Who Am I?" That is an article that sort of runs through the basic benefits of a certification, particularly in the REO world. You can go through an entire transaction with the client who never meets the business owner face-to-face. Unless you're like Desiree and the company is named Desiree Patno Enterprises, that's, of course, an indicator that you're dealing with a woman-owned firm in most cases. However, if you have a rather ambiguous business name, there may be no indicator that the company is minority-owned or woman-owned. That certification, you want to put that on all of your business cards, all over your website, and all of your marketing and collateral materials as well. That certification acts as an indicator to your client and customer base, telling your business a story. Certification is not a guarantee of new business. It's not a guarantee that they will choose you over another company. However, it is a very valuable tool that minority and women-owned businesses can put in their toolkit that they can use to tell the story of their business and that they can use to differentiate themselves and market themselves not only in the communities that they serve, but looking up to asset managers and institutions who they may want to list REO properties for.
Right. So, Kate, it may not be a guarantee, but since this is just now starting and there's going to be a great deal of attention on it, wouldn't you say that to gain these, to obtain these certifications, it will increase the probability of you getting some of these contracts and relationships with banks and what have you? I mean, it's a high probability because so many people don't have them, right? I mean, what do you have any stats to show how many, say, REO broker owners are even certified?
Unfortunately, no. And the clarification for the conference call, it's not something that's new. It's been going on for years. The problem is that it's more been, I shouldn't say the problem, the issue has been more in the federal government that has been out there. It's like rules have been out there for decades and decades and decades. This one hasn't been out there for hundreds of years, but it has been out there for a long time. But they have set aside for various different different developments within the different certifications. Women business owners has been out there for years. I mean, for example, the SBA, it actually was invoked 10 years ago, but they haven't really written any laws actually what do you want to call it, enacted on it. So now that they're actually doing something about something that was already a law 10 years ago, is there something huge there? So that's the whole point, is that they're now enforcing it. They're now following through with it. So yes, you're absolutely right. There's not that many women business owners that are certified right now. I think that the jump that don't quote me on this, but I think they went up 35% in the last 3 years was a quote that I read with the CCNRs regarding women business owners. So that's just within the federal level. So that makes it much more aware of what we're dealing with. And that is not just real estate brokerages. That's just across the board as far as women business owners themselves.
Right, and let me say one thing. Regarding this contracting program that is being administered by the Small Business Administration, you will have 2 certifications available through the SBA. The traditional one is the 8A. That is certifying your business as a small business. The new one for women will be called 8M. It is the Woman-Owned Business Certification, and it is only applicable for those contracts that are available to be set aside for women-owned businesses. So we're talking about a very targeted market here. The women who can compete for those contracts, your company must be in one or several of 83 NAICS or NAICS codes. Now, for the ladies on the call who don't know what that is, that's the North American Industry Classification System. Every industry is given a number. Like your DUNS is a number that identifies your business. A NAICS code is a number that identifies your industry. For the offices of real estate agents and brokers, your primary NAICS code is 531210. I'll repeat that. For women who own companies that are offices of real estate agents or brokers, your primary NAICS code is 531210. That means that industry falls in a category of substantially underrepresented. That means women-owned businesses are substantially underrepresented in this industry. And I'm getting time notifications here, so I'm gonna make this short. You must have a business in one of those 83 NAICS codes to compete for these contracts set aside. Offices of real estate agents and brokers, just to keep it very short and clear, does qualify for that set aside. Your business may cover another group of NAICS codes. On average, one business can cover anywhere from 1 to about 15 NAICS codes, depending on what you do. If you're in property pres or if you're in property management, anything like that. I know a lot of you may have overlap in the scope of your business. Of those NAICS codes, about 12,000 companies are women-owned within all of those 83 industries. Of those 12,000, going back to your question, how many are certified? It's probably not a very significant number, Eric, to be honest with you.
Well, there's a true opportunity here for agents to get their certification done, and what amazes me the most is that it's free, right? You were talking about free certification, and is that so the free certification, is that the 8.8, or is it free both for the A8 and the M8, or the 8A and the 8M?
It's 8M. You can certify for free because they're with the federal government. A lot of people pay outside people to do your 8A. So people on the call, as you Google this and as you do research, you're going to see a lot of opportunities to pay someone to do your 8A certification. I would go directly to SBA.gov to get all of the facts there and any help that way. Now, if you want third-party women-owned business certification to target private financial institutions, such as through NAWRB, we don't certify companies that then walk away from NAWRB. We only certify our members. So that certification does come with a cost to our membership. Membership in NAWRB is $1,145 to initiate. We do not do monthly dues. You then renew your membership and your certification for $350 every year thereafter.
Well, you know, we're coming to the end of the call. In fact, it's 11:30, and I haven't even asked the operator to give instructions for questions. Before we do that, and so, folks, if you can start thinking about your questions, I'm going to ask Desiree and Kate if you could hang in there with us for, say, another 15 minutes max. Can we do that?
Yeah, we're happy to.
Okay, fantastic. So, operator, let's give instructions so people will know how to get lined up to ask questions, because I know there's going to be many questions. And then, Desiree, I'm going to ask you to talk about the fourth bullet here, some of your trade secrets to growing your brokerage. And we've covered so many things here. We're definitely going to have another call. So take it away on the fourth bullet here, trade secrets and growing your business.
The most important, I think, is that getting to know your client. What are their key points? And the reason I put that out there is that to grow your business and what you got to figure out what your strengths are. Don't try to target everyone. Target who you are and what you are. Define what you can bring to the table that you excel at, because we all can't excel at everything, and there's no way we can do it all. So one of the things that I found for my existing clients that I currently have right now is that I go ahead and find out what that client's about. When I find out about them, I do homework about that person. I find out what that company's about, what makes them do their job. Because the number one thing that in this industry, because we're so time-based, how much with technology and everything, I mean, 20 years ago it used to be, if he got back to me in 7 days, that was good. Now if you don't get back to your client within an hour, you're off the map. You're not good. So what we try to do is say, how can you make that person's job easier? What can I do that they automatically would do that I could do for them? For example, if they have a specific way they want to see an email, if they have a specific way they want to track their numbers, they have a specific way they want something as simple as package in it, making sure I have all my criteria exactly. So ask questions when you first start with a new client. How do you want everything? But don't inundate them with too many questions and too many protocols. It's your job is to make their job easier, make them be able to do more volume, because this is all about time constraints that we have in the industry. So those are very key things to do. And so my criteria is that every single client that I have with DPE, each person I deal with, I have a Bible on how that person wants their information, what they like and don't like. Do they want phone calls? Do they want emails? How they want it packaged? Even though they work for the same entity, they might want it personally some way differently on how they do their job. Secondly, become extremely working knowledge. Don't just accept no as an answer. I take no as a challenge. If, for